Chapter 4 of the Autobiography of an Indian Princess. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Val Roth. The Autobiography of an Indian Princess by Maharani of Cooch Behar, Suniti Devi. Chapter 4. My Romance. My happy home life continued undisturbed until I was 13. Indian girls of that age are more advanced than our Western sisters, but I was still much of a child thanks to my parents. My father's name is ever associated with the Civil Marriage Act, as it was entirely owing to his exertions that the government passed the wise measure fixing the marriageable age of men and girls at 18 and 14 respectively. The fairy prince in my romance was the young Nripendra Narayan Bhup Bahadur, Maharaja of Cooch Behar, who had been a ward of the government since his infancy and carefully educated to be a model ruler. Colonel Houghton wrote, "Ever since I became Commissioner of Cooch Behar, the honor of the young Maharaja, his future happiness, and the welfare of the state have been my anxious care." This Indian prince's family records show that he was descended from one of the oldest ruling families in the country. According to popular tradition, his race had been founded by the love of a god and a maiden, and through successive ages, strife and love have been associated with the dynasty of Cooch Behar, whose chiefs are always great rulers, great lovers, and great fighters. The first wish of the government was to prevent any palace interference with the baby Maharaja's upbringing. When his father, the late Maharaja, was a ward of the government, the Maharanis had been very hostile to the idea of foreign education, and similar opposition was what the government now wanted to avoid. Therefore, for this and other private reasons which can easily be understood when it is remembered that the late Maharaja left many wives, the Maharaja was removed, when he was 5 years old, to the ward's institution at Benares, near which the members of Cooch Behar Raj family lived in several houses known as the Cooch Behar Palace. When he was 11, the government removed him from Benares to Patna, where he became a student at Government College, and Colonel Houghton's anxious instructions to Babu Kasi Kanto Mukherjee, who was in charge of the boy, were to watch over his conduct and the management of the household, to see that strangers and unauthorized persons had no access to them, and generally to discharge such duties with regard to him as a good parent is bound to do. In 1872, Mr. St. John Kneller became his tutor and guardian. The Maharaja remained in Patna for 5 years, during which time he and Mr. Kneller visited the northwestern provinces, Oudh and Punjab, and in 1877 the Maharaja attended the Durbar at Delhi when the Queen was proclaimed Empress of India. The Viceroy, the late Lord Lytton, received the young ruler most cordially and presented him with the Kesara Hind Medal. Now, for the first time, the Maharaja was saluted with 13 guns and had a European Guard of Honor to attend him. So far, the experiment of training the ideal ruler for the ideal state had succeeded beyond the highest expectation of the government. The Maharaja had become a clever young man and a keen sportsman, and as Mr. Dalton remarked at the Chirakaran ceremony at Cooch Behar in 1876, His Highness is fond of his native soil and the people, and enjoys himself thoroughly, taking an interest in everything. But now arose the question of the future. To ensure final success for the government scheme, it was necessary that the young ruler should marry an equally advanced girl, who would second him in his, and incidentally the government's, efforts for Cooch Behar. The difficult problem then arose to whether an educated wife would agree to the polygamy hitherto customary with Maharajas, and to adopt the many old-fashioned ideas and ways of a Hindu court. The government was keenly alive to the fact that marriage might make or mar their experiment, and they were determined to do all they could to prevent failure. But as it is a principle of the British not to interfere with the marriage question in India, It was necessary for them to be very discreet in their plans, which required great tact to carry out with success. Mr. Jadab Chandra Chakrabarti, the magistrate of Cooch Behar, was deputed to make confidential investigations and find, if possible, the enlightened girl whom the government could approve as the Maharani of Cooch Behar. He carried out his mission with discretion, but none of the girls whom he found came up to the required standard. It was absolutely necessary for the question of the Maharaja's marriage to be settled without further delay, as his visit to England was in contemplation. This journey was a very sore point with the palace ladies, and Sir Richard Temple, then the Lieutenant Governor of Bengal, had discussed it rather heatedly. "During my interview with the Rajah's mother and grandmother," wrote Sir Richard, "these ladies expressed anxiety regarding the Rajah's visiting England, which they deprecated on the grounds that after seeing Europe he would never care for such a place as Cooch Behar, nor for such quiet, homely people as his relatives. I explained that it had not been decided whether the Rajah should visit England, but that if he did, it would only be for a short time, enough indeed to enlarge and strengthen his mind, but not enough to make him forget his home and kindred, and that while giving him the benefit of an English education, we should take every pains to train and prepare him for the duties he would hereafter have to discharge as the head of a Hindu state." These arguments somewhat pacified the ladies, but they maintained only as a married man could the Maharaja go away from India with any degree of security. At that time they had not realized that the hope of the government was that the Maharaja would take one wife only when the time for his marriage came. The party from Cooch Behar in search of a bride at last arrived at Calcutta, and Mr. Chakrabarti went direct to the Prasanna Babu, one of my father's missionaries, for advice and help. After several interviews and discussions, Jadab Babu spoke of me, but Mr. Chakrabarti said, "It is too much to expect that the minister's daughter will be our Maharani." Still, they thought they would try. When the marriage was first suggested, my father was very surprised. He never gave a thought to worldly or family affairs. His mind was too full of his religious work, and he refused the offer. But the government and the representatives of the state would not be discouraged. They continued writing to my father, interviewing him, and sending messages urging that the marriage of the young prince and myself was most desirable. My father repeatedly refused. In one of his letters he said that I was neither very pretty nor highly educated, and therefore I was not a suitable bride for the young Maharaja. The unexpected opposition was a setback to the plans of the government, and they determined it must be overcome at any cost. Those in authority were clever enough to understand that they must discover my father's weak point and work upon it, as it was evident the worldly advantages of the match made no appeal to him. The messengers went backwards and forwards several times, for Jadab Babu and others would not hear of any refusal. My father, with a troubled mind, prayed and prayed until at last he obtained light from above, and realized that the marriage would be for the spiritual good of the country. Thus he became in the end persuaded that such a union was a divine command, and if he allowed me to marry this young ruler, he would be fulfilling the will of God. Of course, the matter was not mentioned to me, but one day my second sister Bino remarked confidentially, "Father and mother are talking about marriage, aren't they?" "Oh, no," I answered. "It's nothing particular. Probably one of the young missionaries is going to be married." "Well, let me tell you, it's no missionary, but someone far more important." "It doesn't matter to me," I said, and I thought no more of it. Later, one of the missionaries remarked with meaning in his voice, "You will be surprised in a day or two, Suniti. Some very important people are coming to see the school." "So much the better," I assured them, "for now you have told me that I can study hard and tell the others to do the same." The day before the officials arrived from Cooch Behar, I fell ill with a fever. After a restless night, I awoke to find my father and mother standing by my bedside. They looked at each other. "Have you told Sunity?" asked my father. "No," replied my mother. "It is better you should." "Listen, Sunity," said my father. "Has Prasanna Babu mentioned some visitors who are expected today?" "Yes, he said some Englishmen are coming to see the school. And father," I faltered, "I can't get up." "Sunity," answered my father in that loving voice which always made us children thrill with affection, "it is not the school. These gentlemen are coming to see you." "To see me?" I cried. "Why?" "Sunity," said my father in a gentle voice, "these people are coming to see you, and if we all agree, perhaps some day you will marry a handsome young Maharaja." I hid my face in my pillow. I could not speak. Marriage was to me an undiscussed subject. I had never considered it. I felt so shy I became quite red in the face. After a few hours I was told to get ready. Mother gave me some lovely jewels which looked beautiful on my mauve and gold sari. My hair was dressed. We drove to dear Miss Piggott's schoolhouse, where I usually had lessons. I was very nervous, and through fear and ague combined I trembled like a leaf. I rested a little while on the veranda. While I was there I was given a strong dose of quinine. I shall never forget the unpleasant taste of that special draught. Then I was taken to the drawing-room, where Mr. Dalton and the Bengali officers awaited me. Mr. Dalton looked kind but critical. "Won't you play for me?" he asked. I obediently seated myself at the piano and played a simple piece of music. Mr. Dalton watched me up to the piano and back to my seat, and as I talked to him, wrote a full description to the young Maharaja afterwards. "Very nice," he said in such a charming way I did not think he was examining me. He seemed favourably impressed, and so it proved, for in one of his letters to my father he wrote, "I thought your daughter a very charming young lady, and in every way a suitable bride for the Maharaja." Letters passed and repassed between Cooch Behar and Calcutta, but nothing was settled until the 27th of January, 1878, when Mr. Dalton wrote as follows: "My dear Sir, the Lieutenant Governor has at last decided that the Rajah is to go to England in March, and, looking to the desirability of perfecting his bride's education, it is better that he should be married before he starts. Mr. Eden at first saw difficulties in the way of a match with your family, but our arguments in favour of the proposal have at length found weight with him, and he has given his consent. The Rajah has expressed his distaste to be married at all, as I told you in a previous letter, principally because he was averse to being worried about the matter, and partly because he knew he was not to be permitted to live with his wife at once, and wished to remain single until of an age to do so. But he has come to see that an educated bride is not to be procured at all, and is now eager for the alliance with your daughter, the idea of which was always pleasant to him, provided he could secure his mother's consent. This consent I have at length secured with great difficulty, on terms which Babu Jadab Chandra Chakrabarti will explain to you, and which I hope you will agree to. I know it will seem difficult to you to arrange for a wedding on the 6th of March, and also that the idea of marrying your daughter before she has completed her 14th year is repugnant to you. But consider the circumstances, and that in fact the marriage will not be a marriage in the ordinary acceptance of the term, but a solemn betrothal, the Rajah proceeding to Europe immediately after the ceremony. I have read through your memo. There are some paragraphs which I think we can hardly consent to in their entirety, but by a little concession on both sides, I have no doubt that, if you are really well disposed to this marriage, we will come to an agreement which will suit both parties. One of Rani's conditions is that one of your relatives, not yourself, should give away the bride. The objection to you is principally based on the fact that you have been to England. I imagine that, as you will be actually present, or maybe if you like, it will not make any great difference to you should a brother or uncle actually repeat the formula. This is a condition on which great stress is laid, and I hope you will not arrest the negotiations in limine by refusing to accede to it. Remember that we on our side have had great difficulties to smooth away, and that we already conceded almost all that we have the power of conceding. Remember also that if you care about this alliance, it is a question of now or never. For nothing short of urgency of the case, the Rajah going to England in March, and the Ranis in despair at the idea of his going unmarried, would have brought Mr. Eden to change his mind, a thing he rarely does. With my regards to yourself, etc. Observe how this letter government smoothed away all my father's objections. The marriage was to be merely a solemn betrothal, and hey presto, the age difficulty vanished. Concessions were certain, so far as his religious scruples were concerned, but the words now or never throw a curious sidelight upon the government policy. The Cooch Behar Sen alliance was necessary to them, and my father was to be finally rushed into giving his consent. That such was the case is shown by the following telegram from the Dewan to Babu Chakrabarti. Deputy Commissioner says can't wait too long, even if matter is not published. Must have private assurances of Keshub Babu's consent without delay. Remember, preparations 27/1/78. Then the delight of Babu Chakrabarti found expression in this letter to Prasanna Babu. My dear Prasanna Babu, such has been the pleasure of God, and I am amongst you to reopen the question of marriage. Mountains and oceans stood as barriers before us, but thanks to the great remover of all difficulties, we have managed to get over them all. Should we not see in all this the hand of Him who dispenseth of everything human? We have all done all we could. It now rests finally with you as the remainder. I have just now arrived. I left Cooch Behar at midnight day before yesterday and have come in at once. My present address is 6 Bobani Dat Lane, and my man will lead you to my house. I hope that our Maharaja is here. Yours, etc., Jadab Chandra Chakrabarti. The Maharaja wrote to my father as follows. My dear sir, I have been asked to let you know what my honest opinion is on the subject of polygamy. In reply, I beg to inform you that it has always been my opinion that no man should take more than one wife, and I assure you that I hold that opinion still. I give below a statement of my religious views and opinions. I believe in one true God, and I am in heart a theist. Yours truly, Nripendra Narayan Bhup. End of chapter 4.